We come to learn that Rox D. Zebeck attended the Reverie, which happens every 4 years, to only 50 rulers out of every nation affiliated to the world government. They gather at the Pangaea Castle in Marijoa for 7 days to discuss current events and plans for the future. However, a key takeaway is that it's a very exclusive conference. Unless you're a notable monarch, you can only dream of attending, bringing us to the possibility that Zebeck was a king of an allied nation, at least disguised as one or a god to one. Like Harold, the king of the giants who had snuck into the Reverie to plead his case of joining the world government. Throughout his travels, Harold had befriended many nations and their kings, one of which we know to be King of the Fishman Island, Neptune's father. Knowing the similarities in their case, his king might have been the friend who brought him in as a god. Unfortunately, Harold wasn't able to present his case, as Zebeck caused a huge commotion by killing an admiral. He also took 5 other kings as hostages and even got into a massive conqueror hockey clash with King Harold. Now Zebeck even managed to make his way into the Room of Flowers and meet the immortal Emu, vowing to usurp them from their throne. Rox knowing so much could be because he was the king of Drum Island, which might explain why his son had visited it many years later. Now, a lot of you might be thinking Zebeck could have just infiltrated and wanted to make the highest statement about his presence, which does make sense. However, the actions of bypassing the insane security would have been mentioned as well. The idea that Zebeck was a king, however, is also due to the way Oda introduces his character, stating that Zebeck single-handedly committed murder and vanished without a trace. This feat earned him a massive bounty, along with the government's resentment. In a way, it seems as though before this incident, Zebeck wasn't even a pirate, because my guy had the power to obliterate a freaking admiral, and by then didn't even garner a massive bounty before this? It just don't make sense. Also, the world government later hiding his existence altogether seems very fishy. In chapter 957, Sengoku stated that Zebeck wanted to be the king of the world, and he broke too many taboos. In simple language, we know that these taboos meant learning about the Void Century, ancient weapons, and Emu, the devil who runs the world. Being a D, Zebeck had uncovered a lot, realizing that the Reverie was a sham. It wasn't a democracy, everything was rigged, and the government's corruption is behind it all. The admiral he killed was likely a friend of Kong, who later became a commander-in-chief of the world government. During this same year, Sengoku, Monkey D. Garp, and Suru joined the Marines, with Kong being their senpai. With that said, the community has speculated that the murdered admiral was none other than Akainu's father. However, a key point to note is that Akainu alongside Dragon were born only a year later from this event. But coming back to Rox, who had now entered a new life as a wanted outcast, started to gather like-minded crewmates. Now, a quick note here is that the Rox pirates had yet to be actually formed, so the first members he gathered never once joined Rox with him being the captain. Rather, they just had the same goal in mind. 8 years after this incident, 48 years from the present time, Rox made his way to Albath to talk to King Harold. With him was Whitebeard, Miss Buckingham, the gangster Marlon, Wang Yi, and Shiki. From the very beginning, Whitebeard always yearned for a family and saw that as a treasure he dreamed of, which later became the foundation of the Whitebeard pirates. However, his upbringing was rooted in poverty and hardship, seeing firsthand how a country can collapse if they did not pay the heavenly tribute and how much the lack of money can affect a society. This fundamentally drew him towards Zebeck. And we know what brought them together was undoubtedly a common goal, in which Whitebeard explicitly stated they had. This was to destroy the current world government and their corrupt system. The notion of Rox wanting to be king of the world, to rule everyone like some dictator, would contradict Whitebeard's motives in teaming up with him. So Zebeck's dream of kingship was actually that of seeking freedom, which brings us to their arrival at Albath to recruit King Harold to their cause. But it had been 8 years since their first encounter, so Harold's his knowledge on the world's secrecy must have increased, especially after Ja Rule informed him about the disappearance of the Galila giants by the hands of the government. We know this group ended up being locked away in Impel Down and was sent for experimentation to advance gigantification by the world government. But before that happened, it's pretty much certain that the Galila had met Tom from Fishman Island and passed on their information and knowledge about shipwright, or at least acknowledged his skills, and so passed on the blueprints for Pluton, which we know he then passed on to his disciples. And come on, the fact that his disciple Iceberg made the Galila company in reference to Galila band, it just a no-brainer here. For Rocks to achieve his goals of becoming king of the world and defeating Emu, he needed power and strength beyond anything before, hence his interest in the ancient weapons. Harold's investigation on this, amongst other notable feats, could have put him on Rocks' radar. However, since Harold stayed in Elbaf to be king, we know that their partnership did not extend all the way. Yet, during his time here, Rocks had made a huge impression on Prince Loki. From the moment he had arrived, my guy was oozing out aura like no other. If you guys enjoyed this video, then make sure to check out this one next.